An ex-war hero named Badr assists his wife through a challenging birth on the eve of a violent storm. The flow of Rook in each region of the world is observed by several mages, who conclude that a great power is coming into the world. A healthy boy is successfully delivered by Badr's wife. They call him Sinbad, the warrior who would one day conquer the seven seas. Years later, troops celebrate their triumph in the neighborhood tavern in a village that is part of the vast Parthian Empire. Soldiers arrive to reward Badr for his outstanding service throughout the war while he tries to enjoy his drink. He declines, stating that he has no use for money. He only wants to concentrate on fishing and disagrees with the nation's aggressive expansionist policies. A soldier from Rhyme was chased off a cliff by Parthian forces 2 years later. The next morning in a different area, Sinbad's father continues to work as an honest fisherman. Angry citizens confront Badr, calling him a traitor and demanding to stop fishing in that area. In the past 2 years, Parthia has gone to war with Rhyme. Its citizens are slowly descending into poverty, and all of them are desperate to win the war to reobtain their wealth. These people attack Badr, who simply laughs them off and allows himself to be beaten in front of his son. When he awakens, he tries to ignore it, but Sinbad is infuriated that his father didn't defend himself and runs off. That night at dinner, Sinbad quickly finishes his food and runs off to draw water from the well. Sinbad returns, bringing an injured man with him, the same man who was being chased by Parthian soldiers earlier. Sinbad's family nurses this man back to health, and he eventually awakens. He thanks Sinbad for saving him and introduces himself as Darius, a traveling merchant claiming to be shipwrecked. Badr offers his help. One morning, Darius attempts to leave while Sinbad's mother attempts to serve him some food. They're interrupted when soldiers suddenly arrive and tell her they've been looking for a spy in the area. They force their way into the house and are brutally murdered by Darius. He takes Sinbad hostage to keep all the citizens away from him. Sinbad doesn't understand what's happening, but Darius reveals he's a spy from Rhyme. He demands a boat and money in return for Sinbad. Just before the spy escapes with the child, Badr arrives to stop him. He gets on his knees and begs him to let Sinbad go. He suggests Darius should change sides and provide information to Parthia, but this only serves to anger Darius, a proud citizen of Rhyme. In an instant, while he is distracted, Badr stabs him in the heart with a knife. He takes back Sinbad and declares that he doesn't care what people say about him, but he'll never forgive anyone who harms his family. Afterward, Badr is charged with the crime of harboring a spy and is sent off to fight in the war. While Sinbad and his mother cry and plead with the guards to stop, villagers demand their family to leave the village immediately. As Badr leaves Sinbad behind, he tells him he'll have to fight like a man throughout his life and asks Sinbad to take care of his mother. This experience helps Sinbad realize his father's strength. A few months later, Badr is killed on the battlefield and his sword is sent back home. 9 years later, Sinbad has grown into a teenager. The world has changed very much as mysterious buildings and structures are appearing all over the world. People begin to call them dungeons because they hold immense treasure and powers. A dungeon also appears in the Parthian Empire. The Empire ordered an army of 10,000 people to seize the dungeon, but none of them came back alive. At the port, some girls are traveling to sell fresh fruits, but they are stopped by thugs. Sinbad comes in and saves them by beating the crap out of thugs. The girls give him some fruits as a gift. Upon opening the barrel of fruits, a man is found there. He gets surprised and closes the barrel, telling them not to open it without permission. Afterward, Sinbad takes him back to his town. The man reveals himself to be a traveler named Yunan. Upon asking, he tells him that he likes to live in small, cramped spaces and the barrel was a perfect place for him. Yunan continued to observe him and later Sinbad takes him to his house. In the morning, Sinbad makes breakfast for Yunan and leaves for his duty. Soon after, Sinbad's mother wakes up and struggles with her disease. Yunan gives her water. She begins to tell him that Sinbad is bound to this town because of her, although he has a special power. Even his father used to say that he will become a ruler in the future. She ends the talk by requesting Yunan to guide him whenever he is in trouble. He witnesses Rook flowing from her and gets surprised upon seeing it. Suddenly, a woman comes in and tells them the army is beating Sinbad because he didn't join them even after several official letters. Dragal, the commander of a small squad, orders Sinbad to join. He refuses by saying that joining the army for war is just cruelty as the army is just using them as tools. The people of town join Sinbad and tell them to go away as they will not tolerate them anymore. Dragal leaves, saying if he doesn't join the army, then his mother will be considered a traitor just like his father. Afterwards, Sinbad is wrapping bandages on his wounds while talking with Yunan. He tells him that going to the dungeon is similar to doing suicide because no one has ever come back from it. He is in trouble because even if he doesn't join the army, then they'll kill him for treason. Yunan advises him to conquer the dungeon to become a king as he has the potential to become a king. Sinbad asks him about his true identity, but he disappears, saying, "Just a traveler." Sinbad swears to capture and seize the power of the dungeon so that he can change the world for the better. Back at his home, his mother gives him the sword left by his father and tells him he should go on the adventure. He doesn't need to worry about her, as she will be fine. In Imperial Castle, Dragbal gets the order to conquer the dungeon at all costs. The next day, Dragbal reaches the gate of the dungeon with his army as they are going to charge in, and Sinbad appears and tells them that he will conquer the power of this dungeon and would never let them have it. Yunan tells him that he cannot come back unless he has conquered the dungeon. Sinbad makes his resolve and charges inside. Dragbal also charges in with his army. Yunan wonders what will Sinbad do after acquiring the power. Upon entering the dungeon, Sinbad is surprised to see the world inside it, which is completely different, full of mythical creatures. There, Sinbad is attacked by small dragons, but he brilliantly evades them. Dragbal is also struggling against the dragons. His entire army is wiped out in an instant. He is cornered by a dragon, but Sinbad saves him by killing the dragon with a spear. Suddenly, a giant dragon passes by, and they are forced to hide from him. To survive the dungeon, they end up forming an unlikely alliance for the time being. They find the door right behind the dragon den. Dragbal leaves on his own to find a way to the door. He encounters random geysers and baby dragons on his way. Upon reaching the door, he tries to unlock it, but all in vain. The Dragon King notices his presence and charges his lightning breathing while Dragbal struggles to escape. Just when the dragon was about to kill him, Sinbad saves him and takes him away. Dragbal says that he has failed as a soldier and he should die, but Sinbad consoles him that there is nothing to be ashamed about. He takes the shield of Dragbal and heads for the dragon. He uses the shield as a surfboard to ride the water waves from the geyser. He strikes the dragon while surfing and lands a final blow on his face. Sinbad succeeds in killing the monster and two ball-like keys appear. They use the keys to open the door. They continue their adventure while killing random monsters appearing along the way. Dragbal gets impressed by the abilities and actions of Sinbad. Upon reaching the final door, they have a small humorous fight like always and then proceed to the room. Sinbad finds a lamp and touches it. Suddenly, a big djinn emerges from the lamp. He asks who will become the king. As both of them seek power for their own reasons, they decide to settle the winner with a deadly match. Sinbad attacks him with his sword, but Dragbal evades the attack. Soon, Dragbal gets the upper hand as he is more skilled with swords. He pins down Sinbad and lands a strike, but Sinbad stops him with his hands and then lands a solid punch on his face, throwing him away. Despite losing all his strength, he comes again to attack Sinbad, only to get beaten up again. He gathers his remaining strength and dashes towards Sinbad for the final blow. Sinbad emerges victorious in the battle. Baal forms a contract with him and dwells in his sword. Suddenly, all the items in the room turn into gold and the dungeon disappears, indicating that the first dungeon has been conquered. Upon waking, Sinbad finds himself with tons of gold around him. The army approaches him and orders him to hand over the power and wealth to him. Sinbad tells them that he will not give anything to the cruel empire anymore. Yunan makes an appearance and tells Sinbad to use his new power. He calls for the djinn from his sword, and lightning falls on the army around him. Yunan uses his magic that ends up taking Sinbad and his wealth back to his hometown. Right after reaching the town, he gets news about her mother's bad condition and rushes towards his home. Upon reaching, he grabs his mother's hand. Her condition was so bad that she mistook him for Batter. She tells him that she will soon join him. Sinbad breaks into tears. His mother dies while saying that she will always love Sinbad. On the other hand, Dragbal, in a wounded state, walks around the palace. Sinbad gets famous all over the empire. Since the capturing of the first dungeon, more dungeons are appearing in all parts of the world. Many people challenge them and some even manage to clear them. Sinbad is traveling as usual. On his way, he finds a big guy with a girl trying to capture a large water dragon. The big guy attacked the dragon with a harpoon, but the outer shell of the dragon was so strong that the harpoon couldn't pierce it. To save his drowning sister, he dives into the sea with a dragon chasing him. Just when the dragon was about to eat them, Sinbad uses the power of Baal to fry the dragon, leaving the man in shock. On the other hand, Dragbal is leading another special squad to capture another dungeon on the orders of the Emperor. He is given another chance by his brother to steal the djinn power from Sinbad to prove himself the prideful soldier of the Parthivia Empire. He is given a special squad called Shan Lash to execute this mission. Sinbad and the man are now on the shore igniting a fire to warm themselves up. The man's sister wakes up and assumes his brother to be the one who has defeated the water dragon. The man's name is Hina. They have a meal together. Sinbad asks them about their northern village, to which they reply it is covered with pure white snow, and their father is the patriarch of their village. Despite knowing that the village will not welcome him, Sinbad decides to visit it because it will be his first step towards changing the world. On the same night, he apologizes to Hina for stealing his prey. Sinbad comments on his strength and effort to save his sister, which surprises him. Upon reaching the village, Sinbad is surprised to see the strange houses in the village. He meets the father of Hina, who doesn't welcome him. The village prepares for a feast because Hina has finally proven himself a warrior. On the other hand, the sorcerer with Drogwell sent the assassin squad to kill Sinbad. Back to the village, Hina's father tells them about a dungeon that recently appeared outside their village. He asks his son to accompany other warriors to conquer it, but Sinbad interrupts and warns them about it because many people perish in dungeons. Sinbad shows them his power, which surprises them. Hina's father acknowledged him upon witnessing his power. Sinbad enjoys the feast with the villagers while Hina walks away in guilt because he didn't manage to kill the dragon. Soon, his sister accompanies him and tells him that he should be happy about becoming a warrior, but all in vain. At night, the commander of the assassin squad attacks Sinbad in sleep but ends up getting electrolyzed by the lightning power of Jinn. Sinbad tries to question him, but he refuses to answer anything. Since he is a kid, Sinbad asks about his parents, to which he boasts that he killed them long ago. Upon hearing this, he slaps the kid for boasting about such a tragic action. He escapes the house with the help of his partners. After that, Hina's sister comes to Sinbad and tells him that her brother has left to conquer the dungeon on his own. Sinbad tells her that he will save his brother no matter what. While leaving, he gives her a determined, scary look to show his commitment and resolve. Hina enters the dungeon hoping that with this power, everyone will acknowledge him, and he will be powerful like Sinbad. Upon entering, he gets surprised to see the mysterious world inside the dungeon. Sinbad follows him to the dungeon while Yunan watches him from a distance, wondering if he is again attracted by the power of the dungeon. Hina finds butterflies gathering around him in the dungeon, but they turn out to be little monsters attacking him upon looking closer. He quickly uses his harpoon to fend them off. A swarm of butterflies surrounds him, but Hina dives into the nearby river to get rid of them. Fortunately, he survives this deadly attack. After covering some more distance inside the dungeon, he discovers the gate to the treasure room. When Hina is about to reach the door, suddenly, a crab monster attacks him and lands a slash on his back. He falls into the river with the beast. Hina gathers all his strength by reminding himself that he is not a coward anymore and charges the harpoon towards the crab monster. After a massive splash of water, he throws the beast out of the water and dashes forward to land the final blow. But the assassins kill the monster before him, much to his dismay. Drogwell and his team take the crystal to open the treasure room. Hina takes a stand for himself and tells them to give him the crystal as he is the one who reached there first. He displays his insane strength and a fight begins between them. Hina faces off against the trio assassins. At first, he dominates the fighting, but he gets trapped in their combined attack. Just when their leader is about to kill him, Sinbad intervenes and uses the power of Baal to stop them. Drogwell greets him in his usual sulking manner. The mage with Drogwell introduces herself as Fallon. A fight breaks again between them. Hina gets dragged into this as well. Sinbad tries to use his power, but Drogwell attacks him with a gun to stop him. Hina steps in and dives into the river with Sinbad to escape the scene. Fallon uses her magic to freeze the river, but fortunately, they survive it. Drogwell wonders about the real identity of this mage. She gives the team 3 magic pills to boost their powers. After taking the pills, they feel much lighter and more powerful. Drogwell inserts the crystal and walks into the treasure room with his companions. On the other hand, Sinbad gets out from the freezing water. Hina tells him he will claim the dungeon's power, to which Sinbad tells him that he is already strong enough. The scene shifts to Drogwell, who has summoned the Jinn of the dungeon. Jinn emerges from the metal vessel and claims to be the Jinn of deception and confidence. He recognizes the evil scent of Fallon and destroys her puppet doll. Drogwell tells Jinn he will become king and he will give power to the Majesty, which bores him to the point he turns into a cute cat. Sinbad and Hina reach the treasure room. Jinn presents them with a challenge to catch a cat made from his blood. They all decide to claim the power for themselves and dash forward to catch the cat, but the cat turns out to be very fast, much to their dismay. After several failed attempts, Sinbad asks them to work together. He manipulates them by telling them he will not participate in the combined attack. The cat jumps when they dash towards her and Sinbad quickly catches it. They lash at him, telling him a traitor, but Sinbad makes an exciting speech that he has to claim this power to change the world, and he would love to have all of them as his followers. They end up getting passionate after listening to his speech. After all, Sinbad is born to lead people as a king. The assassin's squad suddenly goes berserk because of magic pills given to them by Fallon. They become a source of black power that summons a giant demon. Drogwell tries to kill them, but Sinbad stops him because he wants to save them. The demon attacks them with his massive power, leaving Sinbad injured. Hina and Drogwell step in to stop the demon, but all in vain. Jinn reveals that they can save them if they manage to destroy the demon's heart in a single attack. Sinbad lands an attack on the demon, but Fallon, in his illusionary body, takes the sword of Sinbad away to prevent him from using Jinn's power. Hina finally acknowledges Sinbad as a powerful man and declares him a king vessel. Together, they decided to unleash a final attack. Sinbad dashes forward as a decoy, while Hina charges his harpoon to land the final blow. However, the demon catches Sinbad and makes him suffer. Drogul lands an attack on the face of demon that helps Sinbad to escape. Finally, Hina unleashes his charged harpoon, which pierces the demon's heart in a single go, leaving Fallon and everyone in shock. Sinbad takes advantage of this moment to claim back his sword by destroying the doll of Fallon. However, the situation is unclear because the assassin's leader's heart has fallen in iniquity, and the demon is using him to revive himself. Sinbad takes the challenge and tries to save him. Sinbad discovers his past memories of being forced into a ruthless assassin upon holding his hand. Sinbad finds him crying in his memories because the organization forced him to kill his parents. Sinbad saves him by convincing him that he will not let anyone use him in the future. He uses the power of Baal to destroy the reviving demon. The assassin leader comes back from depravity with the help of Sinbad that surprises everyone, even Jinn. They all bow before Sinbad and tell him to claim power because he is the true king. After forming a pact with Jinn, the dungeon disappears and they all find themselves back in the village. Drogul leaves by saying he has to save someone in the Empire. While leaving, Drogul receives a portion of Jinn's power because he has acknowledged Sinbad as his king. Hina decided to follow Sinbad on his journey as his follower. They meet the village founder, who turns out to be a giant furious man. Finally, Hina gets permission from the chief, and his daughter becomes his wife. Sinbad forms a diplomatic relationship with Hina's village that marks the beginning of his future trade company. Sinbad and his companions embark on a new journey to establish trade with other countries. Roromu, Hinahoho's wife, gives strict lessons to Sinbad and Jafar as education is necessary to become renowned merchants. Eventually, they reach the Rime Empire, which is famous for its military might and economy. Sinbad and his companions try to sell goods there, but the army stops them as they haven't got the license for selling goods in the Rhine Empire. A mysterious man approaches them and convinces them to sell their goods to him, and they end up doing so, but later they find that the man is a merchant with a license who is now selling their goods for 10 times more. However, Sinbad didn't lose heart. Instead, he ordered his companions to bring more goods from Amuchak while settling things with the trade union. Sinbad again comes across the earlier merchant and invites him for dinner, where he learns that the man's name is Harun, and he is a merchant from Balbat. Sinbad asks him to share knowledge of business with him as he wants to change the world, and for that purpose, he must possess wealth and influence. Upon discovering that Sinbad is a dungeon capturer, Harun decides to help him, but he must collect 1,000 gold coins in a month to earn his trust and recommendation. 1 month later, Harun again visits the port and finds people eagerly waiting to listen to an adventure story, and surprisingly, the narrator is none other than Sinbad, who managed to move the hearts of people with his fascinating adventure stories. By using the Jinn powers, Sinbad earned the trust of the people. Harun is surprised to see this development and comments on Sinbad for this idea. Although Sinbad earns good money from this, he still doesn't have 1,000 gold coins. Impressed by Sinbad's determination, Harun gives him 1,000 gold coins and reveals himself as the 22nd king of Balbad, Rashid Salija. Sinbad delivers an exceptional adventure story to the audience, overwhelming them with passion and excitement. Upon seeing this, King Rashid decides to help him as he believes that Sinbad will change the entire course of this world. On the other hand, Roromu continues teaching Jafar, who is sick of learning and doing assignments. Realizing Jafar is losing heart, she reminds him that he once swore to serve his master, and he already decided to go through every difficulty just to support his leader. Jafar gets a bit motivated, but soon Roromu tells him she is conceiving a child soon and he must help her with it, much to his dismay. Sinbad receives his registration letter from the union and thanks Rashid for his help. Sinbad is eager to start his own business, but Rashid tells him he is an amateur in business as he needs to set up a shop and other things to start a business. Therefore, he should continue performing adventure stories to raise funds for a business. He even suggests Sinbad perform in a theater that will help him in gaining popularity and money. Sinbad decides to go along with this plan and begin preparations for the big event. Jafar managed to complete his assignment, but gets tasked with looking after Hinahoho's newborn son, Kikiriku, who is much bigger than ordinary babies. On the other hand, Sinbad finally performs in the theater. He first summons Snow using Jinn's power and surprises the audience and even King Rashid. Sinbad's play became so famous that people from faraway areas began visiting the theater just to watch his play. Hinahovo and others reach the port with the Amuchak goods and are surprised to see Sinbad performing in a coliseum as the theater was not large enough to fit all the people. Suddenly, Kikiriku went missing due to a huge crowd and Jafar rushed, only to find him captured by the caged beast of the coliseum. He tries to defeat the monster with his usual techniques, but all in vain. Just when Kikiriku is about to get devoured, Jafar activates his household vessel power and manages to save him. Later, Sinbad surprises everyone with a new shop for their Sindria trading company as they decide to expand their business to fulfill their goal of making a new country. Sinbad, along with Jafar and Hinahovo, embarked on a journey to make trade relations with the Sassan Kingdom. In contrast, Ruramu and others stayed behind to look after the Sindria trading company. Upon reaching the Sassan Kingdom, Sinbad finds that this country rejects outsiders and doesn't wish to establish any kind of relationship with them as they consider themselves pure and superior. After several tries, the trade officer asked them to visit the Sassan Knight as they are the only ones that can help them in this regard. They witness Darius Leix's, the Night King with supreme command. Sinbad tries to speak with him as he is the only one whose approval can help him, but all in vain. He even tried to join the ranks of knights, but he was given nothing but a cold shoulder. At an inn, they meet a young man named Mistras, who turns out to be the son of Darius. Upon his request, Sinbad told him his adventure stories and even showed him the power of jinn that captivated him. Mistras expresses his desire to explore the outside world, but his father wants him to join the ranks of knights who are bound to live their entire life in Sassan. Mistras tried to reason with his father, but he beat him instead. He decided to challenge his father for a duel, as it is the only way to resign from being a Sassan knight. On their way to witness the duel, Sinbad again meets Yunan, who teases Sinbad by saying that he is quite grown up. Sinbad introduces him to his friends and asks why he is here, to which he replies that he is constantly wandering here and there. He also advises Sinbad to be cautious as Darius is also a dungeon capturer. At the duel, Mistras tries to land some solid attacks on his father, but a protective shield prevents him from doing so. When he is about to be killed by his father, Sinbad steps in to save him. Sinbad summons the lightning of Baal, shocking everyone around, and challenges Darius for a duel, which he ends up accepting as his country's affairs are on the line. At first, Sinbad attacks him with the usual techniques, which he easily evades, thinking his opponent is just a kid. Sinbad uses lighting while Darius uses the protective shield to defend himself. Realizing the situation, Sinbad decides to reveal his trump card and merges his body with the jinn while calling this form a full-body jinn equip. Even Darius is shocked to find that a dungeon capturer can attain such a type of transformation by using metal vessels. Sinbad carries Darius outside and demonstrates his deadly power that blows several mountains in an instant, terrifying Darius in the process. Sinbad tells him with his power he can destroy the Sassan Kingdom in seconds, but he doesn't want to make war. Instead, he wants to make a peaceful relationship with his country. Acknowledging the power and goal of Sinbad, Darius decided to lend him a hand and became his comrade. The people of Sassan begin to treat Sinbad as a fellow because he also possesses godly powers. On the other hand, Mistras tells his father that he is going with Sinbad as he has acknowledged him as his leader. Moreover, he wants to explore the outside world. Upon hearing this, Darius allows him to go on his own path. He also expresses that in the past, he was just like his son but couldn't express his desires and decided to confide himself in this kingdom. Mistras breaks into tears and tells his father that he is grateful to him as he trained him to become a man. When he is about to leave, his younger brother rushes to hug him while telling him not to leave. Mistras apologizes to his little brother and promises to take him on an adventure someday. Darius entrusts Mistras and the fate of the Sassan Kingdom in the hands of Sinbad as he sees a god in him. Jafar tells the crew about their next destination, the kingdom of Artemira, ruled by a noble war princess. Several days later, Sinbad and his crews reach the territory of Artemira, a vast land with one of the biggest valleys on the continent. On their way, they witness a giant bird with females on the top who tries to tease them, but Sinbad counter-teases them. After leaving the ship, the crew began their journey to the mainland, but the path was full of hurdles and dangers. Jafar decides to lead the way as he is familiar with such places, while Sinbad and Mistras continue to complain about tiredness, much to Jafar's rage. Even Hinahowo is in a dire situation as he is not used to tropical areas with air and humidity. After days of harsh travel, they finally reached the mainland of Artemira and decided to meet with the queen immediately. However, the queen named Mira Dianis Artemina turned out to be a fierce woman who chastised them from the beginning and refused to discuss diplomacy with men as she considered men inferior. Sinbad tries to seduce her by using his manly charms, but unfortunately, she sees through it and punishes them by taking their belongings and throwing them in the Valley of the Dead. She kept Hinahowo as she wanted to examine his physique. Fortunately, Sinbad and his fellows survived the fall, but they couldn't climb back the wall and thus ended up living at the bottom of the valley. At first, they struggled with food and shelter, but eventually managed to take care of both. Jafar helped them many times during their stay at the valley as he is experienced in living in the wild with minimal resources. He killed snakes and taught them the way to dissect and eat them. Later, they made a house of woods and leaves. They felt their animal instincts returning after spending several days in the wild. Sinbad and his fellows continued spending their days in the wild but forgot their actual purpose of coming here, which was to develop a trade relationship with the queen. Mistress snapped out of it first and tried to reason with Sinbad and Jafar, but unfortunately, they couldn't care about their mission anymore as living here in the wild became their very purpose in life. Unable to console them, Mistress steps outside and thinks of a way to go back and meet the beautiful lady from earlier that promised him to take good care of him if he managed to survive. While wandering, he stumbles upon fresh meat and takes it to show Sinbad and Jafar, who are surprised to find real fresh meat after so long. Mistress thought Sinbad would try to find a way out after finding this meat, but he was just after the meat, much to Mistress's dismay. After several days, they find more meat with gemstones on it. When they were about to take meat, giant birds came and took it from them. Upon seeing this, Sinbad devises a way, and they all hide in the meat while the bird takes them outside the valley. Sinbad went after the queen to retrieve his metal vessels while Jafar and Mistress retrieved their other items. Sinbad invaded the sleeping room of the queen and humiliated her. The queen ends up activating her jinn-equipped form while Sinbad takes the form of Baal to fight her. However, Jinn had control of 3 elements that canceled out the attacks of Sinbad. He decided to use the second metal vessel and took on the form of Jinn Veilfer. The queen uses the fire element to attack him, which he barely manages to avoid. On the other hand, Mistress keeps worrying about Sinbad, but Jafar tells him to trust his master. After several clashes, Sinbad begins to avoid the queen's attack pretty easily, much to her shock. She ended up resorting to extreme magic, but Sinbad refrained from doing so. He lands the final attack that freezes her. Jafar explains that Veilfer's real ability is to slow the movements of targets, and that's how Sinbad managed to win. Later, Sinbad and his comrades again get an audience with the queen, who is having a body massage as she got some scars from her battle with Sinbad. She announces a trade relationship with Sindria Trading Company because she doesn't want Sinbad as her enemy. She also tells him about the legendary sorcerer of the Rhyme Empire, who has lived for more than 200 years. Moreover, the sorcerer is an unusual being that controls the flow of the world and guides capable king candidates toward dungeons. After forming an equal alliance with the queen, the crew decided to travel back, but Mistress is reluctant to return without having a good time with the ladies. Sinbad and Mistress visit the red light district to enjoy themselves, but unfortunately, they are given men instead of women, much to their dismay. They meet up with Hinahovo, who is covered with kiss marks from the females who find themselves addicted to this muscular body, but Hinahovo is sick of this all experience. The crew meets the diplomat from Artemira, who offers them a ride of birds back to their ships. The queen comes to see them off and introduces them to her daughters, much to their surprise. Her youngest daughter takes an interest in Sinbad and gives him a feather as a farewell present. Upon reaching the Sindria Company, they are all warmly welcomed by their comrades. Later, Sinbad reflects back on his entire journey from a poor, powerless kid to a successful merchant and leader. He decides to prepare for the upcoming revolution that will change the entire world once for all. The end. If you liked the video, give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more anime recaps. Farewell till the next video.